I've decided to investigate, wait for it, the Yowie. The Yowie phenomenon.
Some say we're just another Bigfoot, or a Yeti from a different region. That's not quite right. We Yowies have our own traits, our own ways. Just like you humans. Some of you come crashing into the bush, desperate to catch us, to prove we exist. We feel that. We sense your energy. Others walk these lands with respect, and we notice that too. You see, like you, we're not all the same. Our purpose, our presence, it depends on who's watching, and why. Now back to Goran as he explores the idea of Yowies in plain sight, and the sudden fascination of all things beyond human understanding.
Some people suggest, now I don't know because I'm not an expert, but some people suggest that the Australian Yowie is actually bigger and quite often, well, much more aggressive in the sense that it throws rocks and that kind of stuff. Now again, this is all new to me, and as you can see, I'm not in Yowie country as far as I can tell. Given that there's some really old railway tracks behind me, and I'm not sure if you can see that, there's always going to be that virgin land. And wherever that virgin land is, that's where people tend to encounter strange things like the Yowie or, you know, those shadowy figures that people see or some other entities that come out of the woods. Now, what's interesting about that is, even though society is encroaching more and more and more into the woods, people are seeing these kinds of figures near suburbia, literally in their backyards. So what's going on here? Why is it that suddenly the world is becoming obsessed with the Yeti, the Yowie, the, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it? Why is it that now, whenever you go onto a streaming service, for example, or YouTube, it is such a hot, popular topic? People used to be afraid to actually spread what they saw because they would be locked up, or their little town would think that they're that nutcase in the corner. So what I'd like to do here is investigate the correlation between what we think we see and what we actually see, and see if we can get to the bottom of the psychological aspects of the Yowie hunt, or those people who are affected by the Yowie in one way or another. Now, this could be, you've heard that thing where people say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So we're going to explore that. I hope you can join me on my journey as we discover what the Yowie actually is. They say the Australian bush does not give up its secrets easily. I did not set out to chase monsters or legends. This happened not too far away from home. Just me and my dog, and then that feeling, that primal jolt, like the air itself had turned to static. We were not alone any longer, so it felt. My bulldog, who is usually calm, was locked in, like he was watching something move. But I saw nothing. Sava went on high alert, barking ferociously at the tree line to our right. Again, my eyes saw nothing. I watched as my dog tracked something unseen, his focus shifting from one side of the creek to the other. His protective instincts grew even stronger, and at that moment, I just decided it was best to leave. There was no footage, no time for pictures, none of that. Long before the term Yowie reached headlines or internet forums, this being had a name, old names, Quincan in Queensland, Jugabina in parts of New South Wales, known to Indigenous Australians not as a cryptid, but as a powerful spirit of the land, a watcher, a warning, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. and across the world it echoes. The Sasquatch, the Yeti, the Jinn, a Bigfoot creature, always elusive, always watching. So here I am, not just as a filmmaker with grainy footage and frightening guttural recordings to share, but as someone trying to understand, to observe, to record, not to prove the unprovable, but to ask what it means when myth steps out of the story and into personal experience. This is not just a documentary about the Yowie. It's a journey into the hidden layers of this land, and perhaps into something hidden within ourselves. That moment in the bush was not proof, but it was a crack, a tear in the curtain of ordinary life. The lingering question in my mind is, why do some of us become obsessed with what others cannot see? Professionals might tell you that obsession is a sickness, a fracture in the mind. I know that illness well. It came for me after I was struck by lightning in 2001, a near-death experience they call it. I became obsessed with writing, not about the afterlife, but about what came next. I wrote day and night, brilliant writing, poor writing, writing that bled, writing that healed. It was a purge, dark and divine, a paradox of pain, clarity, and love. And in all that madness, I wasn't lost. I was searching. Strange beings, philosophical, extraterrestrial, familiar, visited me in dreams, in silence, in the space between the noise. They didn't save me, they reminded me. You are one of us. Don't deviate from your origins. Simply observe and record. Even now, I don't know if I'm obsessed with them or if they are obsessed with me. I've tasted the drug of the unknown, and I know how intoxicating the unanswered can be. And I've come to believe this. Truth is only a measure of resistance.
Yes.
Anything is plausible until there is nothing left to think about. Scientists, they measure with instruments. I measure with experience. So when I had these dreams, they weren't really dreams. So I remember seeing 3 orbs here once. Had alien experience, what I'd call alien experience.
Paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. We all crave answers, but what we really want is direction. And for a few of us, it's something we glimpse in the dark, between the trees, just for a second, long enough to burn deep like a branding iron. Do you hear that? That's the kind of stuff that intrigues people. The UFO stuff, the pop culture. In Australia, we have the Yowies. We even have Yowie crossings, believe it or not. You're driving along, imagine that, you're driving along a country road and suddenly you see this sign that says Yowie crossing and it looks so official. You have the painted Yowie crossing sign. In Kilcoy, there's actually a park dedicated to the Yowie. Now the reason for that is, well, obviously it could be a commercial thing, get the tourists into a small country town, which is great. The kids love it as well. There's also been sightings around there, especially around Sandy Creek. So there's been some significant sightings in that area. I've seen the way animals react. A forest campsite suddenly goes silent, as if a movie is about to start. The feel of some weight, something watching, not just from the outside, but from something within. Just everyday Australians. Truck drivers, farmers, hikers, until the land revealed something unfamiliar. But sometimes it's not the adults who carry these stories. Children are often the first to witness things that don't fit inside a neat box of logic and routine. Too often, they're told it was just a dream, their imagination, a lie, dismissed before they've even had a chance to process what they felt. Of all the Yowie stories that I've come across lately, this has got to be one of my favourite. Now, the reason for that is because I can really picture myself inside this child's mind and how adults view him when he tells of his experience and the consequences of that. He had to hold on to this information until he was an adult. As an adult, this story came to life. This story got retold because as a child, nobody believed him. The story, it went something like this. So there's this boy, and what he was doing was he wanted to get some pocket money. So he went to the golf course with his father and his father's golf buddy. While the adults were playing, he was going to go around the golf course to collect golf balls so he could buy some fish and chips or something like that, a bit of pocket money. So as children of, the 70s, 80s, 90s, that's the kind of stuff that we did. So this particular golf course had a perimeter around it. And his father warned him, do not go beyond that fence line. Now the reason for that was a little bit vague, but basically something about mysterious things happen. So he had been warned. Meanwhile, his father and his golfing buddy, they teed off and off they went, assuming that the boy would be okay. The boy meanders around for a little bit. He doesn't really have that much luck with the golf balls, and he's wanting a lot more. So he decides to go closer to the fence, and he sees a little bit of an opening in the fence line. And then he thought, well, if I just go over a little bit, there might be golf balls there because, people tee off and balls go wayward. Bit of luck, you might get some. He scours the ground beyond the fence line, which his father told him not to go through, and luck was on his side because he finds a golf ball. Finally, got some luck going on. But not only that, he finds another one. And then yet another one. But these golf balls, they're not just like random throw away, kick about kind of golf balls. They're kind of shiny, like they've been polished or something. They're like brand new. And the forest becomes thicker. And the sun, even though it's a hot day, there's so much shade. So the young boy goes further into the forest. He's a little bit cautious. He's like, oh, how far am I going to go? He turns around. The fence line's just back there. It's not too far away. So he continues. And as he continues, he finds more golf balls, one after the other, lined up. And he thought, whoa, this is just too good to be true. So the boy decides to keep going. He gets further and further into the bush because there is a breadcrumb of golf balls, one after the other. There are so many golf balls that he can't fill his pockets. They're just overflowing. So what he does is he gets his shirt and he lifts it up and puts all the golf balls in. Right? And then he hears this massive thud, big crack. It's like, what the? And he looks straight ahead and he sees it. And there's this huge creature with its back turned against him. And it is trying to wedge a branch or a log into the top of a gum tree. It's like it's just placed it there and it's just trying to wedge this thing, this huge branch into it. And it's getting frustrated. The creature can't see him, but he sees it. And then he just freezes. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, well, I can't make a sound. I've got all these balls. He wants to drop them, but then that would alert the creature to him. At that point, he realizes that there's another creature. He thought it was a stump. From the corner of his eye, he thought it was just a stump, a cut-off tree. But it's this baby or a juvenile of what he sees over there. And this thing here is just staring at him. Doesn't make a sound, nothing. It's just staring at him. And then he's like, whoa, okay. So now he's between the creature, the small one, and the big one. What's he going to do? Like, what is he going to do? He was in this really dangerous predicament now. Because if that creature makes a sound, the little one makes a sound, it's going to alert the mother. Assuming it was the mother. And if that happens, wow, the worst imaginable could happen to him. But something happened in the sense of he didn't have to think about it too much because he froze. He didn't move. It's like time stood still, or this creature this little one had a power over him, and it was just staring at him, and it was kind of going down a little bit. And within a heartbeat, that spell was broken. He doesn't know what happened, that little boy. He doesn't know how it all came about. All he knows is that he dropped the golf balls and he screamed and he ran and ran and ran. And with that came the mystery. What happened? How was he frozen? Why was he frozen? What was that little creature doing to him that he couldn't move, that he was just in this limbo? The big creature he saw, the little creature he saw, he doesn't know which one creeped him out the most. But what he did know was it was real. He saw it in plain sight. Sirens were going off in his head and he's running through the forest, finds the fence line, gets through it, catches up with his dad. Like he could hardly talk, and he tries to explain what's going on. And his dad's just telling him to calm down, it's okay, just calm down. And eventually his dad and his friend got the story. And the story was so incredible that they didn't know what to do with it. But being the father that he was, he said, look son, you just stay here, stay safe, and we'll go and check it out. And the boy said, make sure you get those golf balls. And he said, look, just don't go anywhere. So the two men go inside the forest, they track the track, they follow the track that the boy had followed. They were in there for approximately, according to the story, about 7 minutes. They were looking at the ground, they were looking up at the trees, they were looking around. No unusual kind of scratch marks, no anything. No golf balls. They saw nothing. Well, nothing unusual that they could spot at least. It's like the place had been tidied up. Like these cleaners, these Bond cleaners have come in and cleaned the place up. So they go back to the boy, and of course the boy is devastated in a way, or confused, or whatever he is. He's going through so many emotions, he doesn't know what's going on. And so that's where it stopped, until he got older, and then he started to retell his story. Right? Then he was brave enough to retell his story. Then he could process it as an adult of what actually happened, as best he could. These days we have these online forums that you can talk to. There's other people with interest groups, with Yowies, Bigfoot, you name it. We've got YouTube, which is plastered with all this sort of stuff. So please, next time you hear stories like that, just consider that it may be true.
What if the Yowie isn't just a flesh and blood primate hiding in the bush? First Nations people have known this presence for millennia. They call it by many names. Some believe that it walks between worlds.
To the Cuckoo Yalanji up north, we were Quinkin. Some of us protected children. Others didn't. In the valleys of New South Wales, they knew me as Dulaga. Hairy, tall, wild, feared, but never forgotten. And in Queensland's bushlands, the old ones whispered of Jurawara, watcher of the trees. You forgot. We remember.
Some believe that it protects sacred ground or warns those who have crossed a spiritual boundary. These stories don't stand alone. Across the Himalayas, we find the Yeti. In the forests of North America, the Sasquatch. In Mongolia, the Almas, a shadowy being whose name means savage or wild one. The Dakhad people revere it as Almas Karatenga, the black god of the mountain forest, honoured with offerings of roots and raw meat. This Almas almost blends in mysteriously into the second part of the word, hypothalamus, the region of the brain responsible for fear, instinct, and deep ancestral memory, tapping into the very system that keeps us connected to the wild. Those who have encountered the Yowie don't always describe a mere animal. They speak of beings that vanish mid-stride, that induce panic or confusion without a sound. Witnesses say that the Yowie can cloak, mimicking voices or even footsteps. Others recall eyes glowing red or amber, sometimes shaped like a diamond, almost insect-like. These are not the eyes of a typical forest mammal. They resemble night vision tech, or something even stranger, perhaps a visual system not meant for light, but for layers. This might suggest that the Yowie and creatures like it may not simply live in the bush. They may move through it in the way that we move through thoughts, perhaps with interdimensional biological suits designed to adapt to landscape and language, shifting to fit the perception of the witness.
Yes.
Each culture gives them different names, different skins, but perhaps they are all masks worn by the same force.
No.
Something that appears differently depending on who is looking and what they are ready to see.
Don't chase me. Just observe and learn. Your obsession with the unknown. It's not always about escape. Sometimes it's about belonging. Belonging to something older than Earth time. The only part that finally makes sense.
Wow, you really are serious.
The part that doesn't lie to you.
Okay, so what is the Yowie? A dimensional traveller? A reflection of our own hidden instincts? Maybe it's all of these things. Maybe it's none. But what I do know is this. Wherever you go in the world, where the land remains wild, where stories live longer than memory, this figure returns. Maybe the Yowie isn't here to be proven. Maybe it's here to remind us of what we've forgotten.